Hi, this is Ryan at Clovis Star. It's March 8th, 2016. Clovis Star News. You can check us out at clovisstar.com. New report came out, new information and video evidence of the murder of LaVoy Finnegan today on March 8th. It came out about the video Shawna Cox took that she had referenced in some of her interviews. And people like Mark McConnell many people suspect is some sort of a informant or something. He was in the car with Ammon Bundy, but he showed up at the refuge like 2 days before, and then they didn't even arrest him. But the guy said that, basically the opposite happened, that LaVoy charged him and that he deserved it, and that, they didn't kill him in cold blood, that whatever, he had it coming or something. That's what Mark McConnell said. But the girls that were in there, Shawna Cox and Victoria Sharp, noted that, in their interviews, that even after LaVoy was killed, they shot him like 9 times, and you can hear it in this video of theirs. This video disputes the rest of the investigation of the police, saying that he was only shot 3 times or whatever, and that there's only 8 shots fired into the car. But in this video, I counted somewhere around 50, and I wasn't taking a good strict count or anything scientific, but I think there's much more than 8 shots total. It is interesting what came out here, and that verifies that these women were telling the truth, that the cops were firing on innocent women and children in this vehicle, that nobody had fired a shot, nobody had any weapons. The only weapons that, like Ammon Bundy had mentioned in one of his testimonies, the only weapons they had were cameras and projectors and laptops. They weren't out there with guns and doing any kind of hostility in this meeting. The Grant County Sheriff invited them to the meeting. They were going up there due to an invitation. And the whole county was up there to talk to them about what's going on. And nobody was afraid of them. Everybody was, copacetic. It was all good. But the FBI escalated this and made this violent, and you can see that LaVoy Finnegan, he just wanted to drive and go to Grant County and do what he needed to do. And as far as they understood, these were FBI agents. They don't even have jurisdiction in the county without the sheriff's approval, and they were asking who they were. Nobody knew who these people were in these black cars behind them. And so everybody in the vehicle were asking who they were, who these people in the black vehicle. They didn't know. And, they needed ID or whatever to figure out why these people were pointing guns at them and shooting at them, and who they were and why they wanted to come with them. It was at a roadside, hijacking, opponents of them, liberal, terrorists. I don't know. But they didn't know either. That's the thing with these badges and these costumes. You can get them anywhere. It's hard to know who is an officer and who isn't. Especially if they're a federal officer, which they have no jurisdiction. Why would you want to submit to that? It just doesn't seem like a good thing to do. To divert from your destination, to talk to people on the side of the road where you have no cell phone signal, you can't call the 911 dispatch, you can't figure out who these people are, why they're shooting at you, why they want you to surrender. But anyway, as it goes on, there's broken windows, lots of holes in the car. I've seen the new reports about the autopsy that the state did, which, according to reports that I heard, it was incorrect as far as the actual private autopsy that took place, but I could be wrong. There's just a lot of suspicious activity here, but most clearly what this video shows is that LaVoy Finnegan was murdered. Just on a personal note, I think that there's two things in politics, two things, that the government have done that have irritated me enough to change my direction in life. My family is the only other, presence in my life that has changed any direction that I've been on and any destination I was going to. The other two were very effective, even though they were tragic, but effective enough on my psyche to change my direction in life. And cousins and whatnot, and my sister will say that I was a Nazi skinhead, which I deny. I do have a story online, a biography that I wrote, that I mentioned that when I was a skinhead, and I did have racist friends and family for that matter. But since the age of 17, I went forward with anti-racist skinhead beliefs, and that's how skinheads started out in the 60s. But it's like what I was reading, Goodwin's Law. When in my family especially, they go for the throat. But if you're arguing with people, in my very liberal progressive family, I disagree with on many topics, and Mormonism has been one of them. But Goodwin's Law, Mike Goodwin is an American attorney and author who formulated Goodwin's Law in 1990 when he made the following assertion. As an online discussion grows longer, the probability of a comparison involving Nazis or Hitler approaches. When people run out of debate or facts, this is what they go for. And this happened with Cliven Bundy. And you can see right here, even, afterwards, after the whole thing fell out with Cliven Bundy and them accusing him of being a racist, these guys who were there supporting him, that were black, said, hey, we support him. We'd give our life for this man. They asked if they were being paid. The news reporter said, hey, are you getting any money for this? And they said, no, we're here to support our friend Cliven Bundy. And they're black guys. You can see this guy here. And this other guy at the wildlife refuge, I forget his name now. Brandon Dowd is another guy who came out to support the wildlife refuge protesters. You can see him with LaVoy Finnegan here. He was a black guy. He didn't feel any racial tension, and they welcomed him. They had him in the news broadcast with them. They said, hey, this is representative of who we are. We're everybody. We're you. We're your neighbor. We're your grandma. This is revolutionary. This isn't color. This isn't division. This is unity. This is us unifying everybody together and making something happen. And when the revolutionaries do something, instead of these fake ass protesters, fake ass activists that do nothing, they do internet commentary or syndicalism or whatever, but they never do anything. They've never changed a law. They've never challenged authority. They've never done anything. They sit around and they bitch about what they don't like in the world and ask for free money. But these real revolutionaries get together, and the liberals go for the throat, especially the liberals like Janet Brown up there, the governor, of Oregon, and others. They go for this racist, overture. Oh, these people deserve it because they're racist. Oh, they're totally, anti-American, whatever. They try to marginalize them. There's an FBI agency, a sub-agency in the FBI for counterintelligence programs, and they do, fake news and fake media and give fake facts to do COINTELPRO and to reduce the effect of a possible anti-government group or somebody that may challenge authorities. Usually, in the history of the United States, since it started in 1912, I believe, with Marcus Garvey, where the FBI used friends and family of his to infiltrate his group and to discredit him. But they've had COINTELPRO as a actual sub-agency since 1956, and they did it with Martin Luther King as well. They would use fake facts and they would discredit him, and they would use people close to him to do it. With Marcus Garvey, it was Edward Boulin, who was one of his best friends and a businessman and a well-respected person in the community. And the FBI paid him off, said, hey, we're the government. You want to do your country a service? Work with us. And, give us the dirty details on what's going on with Marcus Garvey. And he did, and told him that he was suicidal and all those other things that the FBI used to discredit him. Later on, they did this with other civil rights activists, and it was typically black people. So that's the thing with the progressives that like to divide us. Why divide us when there's revolution happening, whether it's Black Lives Matter, whether they're burning down Baltimore or whatever, or whether it's a couple of cowboys going to camp out at the wildlife refuge, and brought their sleeping bags and their camping gear and decided to camp out in Oregon. I mean, whether it's one or the other, if it's revolution and it's a thing that empowers the people and gives liberty to all and empowers liberty, why not stand behind it? I'm not totally against the Black Lives Matter. I think some of them have very passionate, legitimate concerns about racial issues in the United States. Some of them exaggerate it and use false facts, like the police kill blacks at a higher rate than they kill whites, which is wrong, and it's opposite of that. The police kill whites at a higher average per capita than they do blacks, actually. And they don't use true facts, but they'll say these things like, more blacks die at the hands of police than any other race. And, per capita or whatever, and more blacks go to, or get drug charges and stuff like that, and which is true, and I've reported on that. But what they don't account for is the high violence, in the black community, that, like a white person is 39 times more likely to get assaulted or hurt by a black person than the reverse, and that blacks kill blacks at a much higher rate than other races kill other races. And so the violence gets the police involved in their lives. And if they didn't have all the violence and all the police interactions, they probably wouldn't have drugs found on them as much. Is there systematic racism? I don't see true systematic racism, such as laws that say, white man is benefited more than a black man. On the reverse of that, you have affirmative action, which, because of someone's race, they can get scholarships, job preferences, loans, grants, business, mentoring, whatever, for free from the government just because of their color, or at a reduced or at a subsidized rate. These, programs that work for specific colors of people, but not white people. I don't see systematic racism where whites have all these benefits and they're all rich and they all have lots of money and blacks don't. I think that there's a lot of reasons for the black community to reevaluate and to work on things. And I think Black Lives Matters, there's some of those people that are doing that, saying, hey, we need more graduations from our community in high school and college. The high school dropout rate amongst the black community is very high, and that's a lot of the reasons why they don't qualify for a lot of jobs. So a lot of these BLM people are doing positive things and saying positive things, but anyway, the whole racial thing where there's this division and we need to hate each other, that's a tactic of the elite. That's a tactic of the people pulling the strings that want to keep us divided so that we don't unify. And that's why I think Black Lives Matters and ranchers all alike, and everybody in between and everybody all around, if there's a liberty purpose out there, and it's true liberty, and these people are fighting to gain back freedom and independence, whether it's, like I say, the Black Lives Matter or the ranchers, we need to make sure that we support people that are involved in liberty. That's what I want my audience to know about me. So whether they're talking about racism or whether they're trying to disparage them in other ways, look at the actual situation going on and take a lesson from that. And if it's positive, I support it. If it's not, then I analyze it. Just like I'm doing with the whole flat earth theory, which I think is bizarre and, disputable, easily disputable. But, if it's important to a friend of mine or important to people that I know, I want to, give it a good analysis, a good, thoughtful analysis. But if it's a good cause, I'll support it, especially if it's liberty-based. And that's all I'm asking of my audience. But definitely check this video out. I have it uploaded on my channel. I actually got it from the Oregonian. I downloaded it and just uploaded it to my YouTube. But check the video out of the inside of the car, what they did to this family. Compare it to Randy Weaver, what they did with his family. And like I said, that's one of the life-changing events that happened in my life, watching what happened in Randy Weaver's situation. Terrible situation, terrible setup, terrible way to hurt a family to get their way, to manipulate a family illegally to try to hurt another group of people, and they're using people like that to do that. I think it's terrible. And what happened in Waco, this is just like that. This is murder by the government. It's tyranny, and it needs to stop. And I support these ranchers. I found out Ammon Bundy's legal fund is up to almost $90,000. And this, with what has came out here with this video, I believe it's going to be even more. Yes, fundedjustice.com, and he is up to 87,000, so just shy of 90,000. And he's got 9 days left, so go to fundedjustice.com and help fund the Ammon Bundy's legal defense fund. One of these days I'm going to donate. I've been meaning to, but I've done my vigils and I've tried to raise support. But I am going to donate to the legal fund of Ammon Bundy and maybe some of these other protesters that are suffering the tyranny of the government that were out there at that wildlife refuge. We need to give them our support. That's what I want our audience to know. Thank you.